All right. So, hello, my friend Isis. And before we begin our conversations on how to connect to the biorhythms of nature, let's just introduce each other. Let's just introduce ourselves so that the listeners can get to know a little bit about ourselves and our background. So, why don't I go first and I'll introduce myself and then you take it from there? So, my name is Geeta Sethi, and I'm a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner. And I also practice as an Ayurvedic lifestyle consultant. I basically bridge the gap between people and their health using nutrition and lifestyle. And I work with women who basically have been overgivers and have exhausted themselves, and as a result, have developed health conditions and are ready to take charge of their own health and get connected to who they really are. So that's a little bit. I can talk a lot more, but I think let's keep it short and simple. And I'm sure other conversations we'll get to talk about what all we do in our future conversations. So why don't you share a little bit about what you do, Isis?
Of course. Just mention your website in case people want more information
Oh,
about.
yes. Thanks for reminding me about that. So, in case you want more information about what I do and where you can reach me, my website is called Living Well with Geeta. And I work under the same handle on Instagram and Facebook. And so you can reach out anytime if you want to learn more about me on my website or on Instagram or Facebook.
That's amazing. So Gita is a dear friend of mine. We met at nutrition school. I was on that path for a little while, and after bringing balance to the body and mind, I decided to go and search for balance for the soul, and I dove into holistic therapies. So I started reminding things from past lives, so to say, and bringing those therapists, energy healing, and tapping into the Akashic records, developing Akashic hypnotherapy sessions, reading tarot, and all of that. And we often connect and we talk about so many subjects in a way that it's so enriching for both of us. And today we decided to record this meeting when we're gonna talk about the biorhythms, right, of nature and so on. So yeah, here we are. My website is Your Book of Lives. And again, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you, Isis. And I really am glad that you shared how we connected and at nutrition school and the fact that uh, both of us tap into each other's souls for wisdom and share what we are experiencing. And as I said, this conversations is every time we connect and we talk, we are going to be sharing more and more about how we stand on common grounds when it comes to and integrating where we are today and with the wisdom from the past that we both are have been exploring and learning and tapping into.
That is
So
true.
why don't we begin with today's topic that we decided to start with integrating, or not really integrating, but aligning with the biorhythms of nature that we are in the winter and at this time of the year we are entering December. So I says, why don't you go from a soul perspective? What is it that really means at this time of the year?
Cool. So yeah, we have been talking a lot about this, about how introspective we are becoming, and that sometimes we try to push ourselves out of that comfort zone, so to say. We try uh, to go out more and to tap into another kind of vibration, like this action of summer or so. And it just doesn't feel true because right now it is like the moment that we have to just go within and reflect about everything that we lived during this year, everything that we accomplished, to check where we are and to make plans for the future, right? And to see what we want to build in the forthcoming upcoming year. So it's time for that self-awareness of our journey so far, where we are right now, and what we want to achieve. So it's normal for us to uh, want to hibernate a little bit or something like that, just slow down actually and just nourish our body and our soul to this season. And yeah, it's time for the inner journey and connect with the seasons. And that's what we were talking about, right? We were bringing a little bit of wisdom, Ayurvedic wisdom, talking about the doshas and how it's time for a certain diet, what our bodies are truly craving, like what is the wisdom that we carry within us, and that we have to listen to that and respect, because there's reason for all of this, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. And it's so interesting because you have understood this very intuitively. And again, for me, the journey has been of understanding from an Ayurvedic perspective, which is a science which aligns us with nature, because we are not really disconnected. We are very much a integral part of nature. And so in Ayurveda, everything works in a cycle. So typically, uh, we are reaching the end of the cycle. And that's the time, which is basically winter is a time, December, when animals, if you look at nature, animals hibernate and go inwards. And that's a time they basically disconnect. And before the animals hibernate, they make sure that they eat enough fat, which is going to last them for the whole winter season before they come out in the spring when the temperatures start warming up. But going back to what you're saying, that it requires you to go inwards, it's basically and if you look at nature, and that's what I meant when you look at the way the seasons are, which are again a part of the biorhythms. In the winter season, the daylight has gone less. That means the nature does not want you to be outdoors. Nature wants you to be indoors and rest and sleep more and be in that slow down state. Don't be in a journey of being always on the go. And if you are intuitive with what your body is trying to tell you, which you very much are, you see the noise around. We are living in a world where there is so much consumerism and so much, especially sales and Boxing Week and all that, that we have in that consumerism, we have disconnected from that the whole purpose is not about commercializing the festivals or anything. The whole purpose of this time of the year is to slow down,
Yes.
reduce your interaction with the noise and with work and everything, allow your body to settle down, get recharged, nourish yourself. And that nourishment comes with relationships as well. And that's why those festivals are where you can connect with family and loved ones and enjoy a meal together. And typically, nature will give you at this time, there is not much which is growing.
Yeah.
So you're relying on a little bit of animal fat in case you're a meat eater, or from vegetarian perspective, we are relying on nuts and seeds, which can be preserved because they're dried form. Or you have fermented foods, which are again preserved foods and fermented foods. And also depending on where you are in the world, what kind of growing seasons there are. Like we both of us are in Vancouver at this time, and we do have some greens like kale and Brussels sprouts, and so we do get some winter greens at this time. And generally, the hard squashes that we get at this time, like the butternuts and the pumpkins and all, are all they're hard squashes because they can be preserved for
Yeah.
months. They can be, with the temperatures being cold, they remain fine. So that's typically, and even potatoes and sweet potatoes and all can be preserved. So those are the root vegetables, which can help us, nourish us, provide us what we need, and allow us to take care of, allowing to build fat and allowing us to kind of get through the season, where we nourish the body and take care of it. So it's so intuitive that what nature provides us, in the form of the light, the seasons, the cold, it wants you, it's cold. So you need to be indoors. You need to
Exactly.
stay warm.
And
And
and it's beautiful because like all those foods that you're mentioning, they're also very grounding, right? So they bring us here in order for us to truly connect. Because once we we are on this inner journey, when we are connecting with higher planes and so on, it's very easy to get lost in there and want to be in these realms and so on. And it's time to ground. It's time to be here in the present with our feet on the ground and our mind on the higher realms, so that we can have this beautiful and pure connection that allows us to truly understand our path and do this work of self knowledge and all of that. And
yeah,
and when another thing that came to mind when you were mentioning like the festivities or the holidays and how we are looking outside, there's an element to that that is like how much sugar is promoted
Oh,
through those
yes.
festivities, which disconnect us with our bodies, right? And so we look outside. So it's like, okay, we're giving all of those treats because we have excuses for them all the time.
To
And
look outwards.
exactly,
Yes.
that we disconnect and then we look outwards. And with that, also we are also harming our immune system. And so comes like the seasonal flus and all of that. And I'm like, is that because of the season or is it because of how we are nourishing ourselves? So all of those things are just reminders that we should be a little bit more mindful and listen like to our body and sync with the rhythms of nature, because there's so much wisdom in all of that. Once we remove all this propaganda, once we remove all this pollution that comes in form of the food that we are eating or the news that we are hearing or all this noise that surrounds us, once we are able to quiet it down a bit, then comes this wisdom that it's so beautiful. And you said something last time we talked, Geeta, that was so amazing. And it was like the time that you reach for the light inside, that
Mm.
the sun, right? You had a way to put it that was really beautiful, but it
Yes.
sounds like
So we are at a time where the sun is in the southern hemisphere.
yeah.
And so the light is less, the days are getting shorter and shorter till we reach winter solstice. That means the sun comes back in the northern hemisphere. But then when the light outside is going down, it's basically a reflection that you do not need to look outwards. The light is within you. So you need to go inwards. And that's why it's a time, as you said, to introspect and go inwards,
Mhm.
because you don't need to look for the light outside. The light is within you, the fire is within you.
And that's really beautiful, and that brings us also like to the problem that we usually see during winter time, that everybody links it to a time of depression, winter blues, and all of that. And maybe we should just take a step back and analyze if that's real for us, or if we can tap into this wisdom and just allow things to be instead of being conditioned to what we should be doing, that we're not as productive, that we're not as active, or something like that. Maybe that is part of the reason why we are frustrated and then we create this state of mind. I'm not saying it's not real, I'm just saying we should just uh, see what's real for us and not disregarding supplementation of vitamin D, and like looking for foods that have like higher sources of this, and stuff of like that, like proper supplementation if we are in the northern hemisphere, but also looking like for quality foods that may bring this vitamin that is needed right now, and plays a role with depression and all, like, and serotonin levels and all of that, and how our body is working with neurotransmitters, and how many, like, how is the quality of the amino acids we're giving the body so that it can properly produce like the neurotransmitter and all of that. I'm not disregarding any of this, but just inviting us to tap into what is true, what feels true, and when are we just repeating things that are out there and actually disconnect us from this wisdom and put us in this state where we are victims and when we suffer and all of that, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up about depression and the fact that you're not saying, I mean, both of us went to nutrition school for a reason, because we wanted to understand. And again, in Ayurveda, and we've both of us have learned that you cannot really disconnect the body from the soul, but at the same time, the physical body is basically a temple of the soul. And if you want to do your work in a journey or do your spiritual work, you cannot do it if your physical container is not in the optimum health. And I mean, when we talk about neurotransmitters and when we talk about serotonin or everything, or amino acids, or the basic nutrients, or the basic building blocks of this physical body, if you're not providing those building blocks in a balance, in the right way, how nature made us in a certain way. I mean, we've evolved through nature allowing us to understand how to convert the foods that we eat into energy. And it gives us what is nutrient dense at that point of time in where you're located on the planet, to make sure that the nutrient needs of the body are met. Now, we're not going to get into the rabbit hole of what is going on with the agricultural system and what is going on, because then we will not get anywhere. But going back to Ayurveda and going back to the depression aspect and the nutrients that are needed to make sure that you can avoid vitamin D deficiencies or neurotransmitters are taken care of and things like that. So we also say, as I said, in Ayurveda, it's a cycle. And so I'm going to bring in the three doshas and briefly, because again, it's a huge session which we can be talking about at some other point of time.
That's beautiful.
But we are, when we begin fall, and we are at the ending stages of the late fall, early winter. We are in the Vata time of the year, which is basically the last part of the cycle. So there are three doshas in Ayurveda, which is Kapha, Pitta, and Vata. And Kapha marks the beginning of the cycle. And everything in life, your lifetime, the seasons, every moment in time also has a cycle, and it goes through these three. And it's basically these three constitutions or three doshas are made up of five building blocks of the universe, which are basically ether or space, air, fire, water, and earth. So the element which is the most active at this time of the year, which is the Vata element at the beginning of fall and early winter, is space and ether. And if you think of what is happening with space and ether, air element is very drying, it's cold. And if you look at it, the trees lose their leaves. They do a beautiful journey, but it's like the end of the cycle till they begin again in spring, till the small petals come out again and they start thriving again. So that's what happens in our body also. We tend to get very dry, and air element and space element, when out of balance, if it is not nourished with the right kind of opposite, what would you do to ground something which is very spacey or earthy, spacey or airy, or wind like a storm? You need grounding, you need heaviness, you need fat. So it's nature does the same. And so that's exactly, we experience that Vata element, that air and space element in our body in the form of dryness. And mentally, emotionally, you can get off your balance, you can get anxious, you can get high-headed, or you can get jittery. So all those things happen, and that's the reason nature also makes sure that you're eating your root vegetables, you're eating good fats, to make sure that you do not physically get into states of anxiety which can cause depression, because again, you're emotionally and mentally not nurturing or nourishing yourself. And that has again the role to play with making sure that all your nutrients are taken care of, you're provided, your vitamin D levels, and because vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, and that's needed the most at this time of the year when there is not much light outside.
Exactly.
So
So you have to have like the carrier for it too, right?
exactly,
You have to have the fat, otherwise,
you're not going to get much.
Exactly. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. I love hearing about the wisdom of Ayurveda.
Oh, I love talking about Ayurveda because it's not any different from, again, connecting to the nature and how we are. And it's called Ayurveda. The word itself means Ayur and Veda, which is the science of life or the wisdom of life and how we live and how we connect to nature. And so it's all about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's very interesting as you dig deeper how much you can connect your body and live in.
And something you said, like that we can only like tap into the soul if we have a healthy body, and that was actually my journey, right? I was only able to reconnect to this spiritual world, so to say, to tap again into things that I started connecting when I was really young, but I was only able to do that again once I reached balance in my physical body. And that's so important to have like a healthy body. And I know everybody has their own challenges, but like detoxifying as much as we can, and that has meaning, different meaning to every constitution, to every person. I'm not here to apply any specific rule of how we should do, but just like reconnecting and understanding what are we actually craving. Is that because of an addiction like that we have, and we are craving things that uh, our body doesn't know how to deal with because we are cultivating like pathogenic bacteria, for example? Or is that like a food that is connected to some feelings? Am I eating this kind of thing because of some childhood issues, or because this transmits love to me? Or how is my relationship with food? Am I really listening to the needs of my body, or are there other things playing a role? And when we start really clearing this pathway and listening to our bodies and bringing this balance, then we open up to mental health, first of all, and then a step further would be the spiritual health, right? So it's like the spiritual connection, and it's really, really important. And again, people think that everything is separate, and it's not. Like the healthier the one is, the healthier the other one is going to get. Everything is interconnected. We are all interconnected, and so is our body, mind, and soul. And I think that's important to remind people of that, and or bring awareness to those who haven't heard about it before.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think people, because it's a term which is very casually used, and I myself tell all my clients, but the depth of what the statement is, that your body is the temple of your soul, and to take care of it is your responsibility. I don't think people can hear it, but they're not really hearing it, because when it comes down to, especially at this time of the year, when you see the level of, I mean, again, I'm not judging here, but I was asked, what is your favorite holiday treat of the season? And typically, it's all everything, the way the social media and the way the world is portrayed it, that sugar or any desserts are what are supposed to be you are indulging at this point of time. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with indulging in sweets or anything, but you have to understand that where you are on a spectrum of health and what you're taking internally, is it serving you? Is it serving your body at this point of time? And that's a choice which is only you and yours. Because as you said, that maybe that food brings in some memories, or maybe that food is fulfilling something emotional which you're not getting from external. Maybe you're looking for a validation for something from external relationships, and food is fulfilling that because you're not getting it from external sources. So it could be multiple reasons, but it's a question to ask, that when I'm eating something, or if I'm craving something, is it, as you said, am I really craving it, or am I just fulfilling a need? And does that food serve me and serve my body? And that's where I think is also a part of, when we spoke about that, it's a journey inwards.
Yeah,
Because again, as you said, we cannot disconnect the body from the soul. So your food, your physical body, is very much an important aspect of where you are at in the mental and emotional state. Why are you eating this way? Why are you not prioritizing your health? And you can be on an escape route and say, oh no, it's the time to celebrate, and it's the time to indulge and treat myself. At what cost? And a lot of times it will be okay, as far as you're aware of it, and you do it with consciously saying, I'm going to enjoy this piece of cake or this beautiful pecan pie, which I want to enjoy, and I'm going to allow my body to accept it. But I know that tomorrow, uh, this is not going to be a regular feature of my diet, just because it's an escape. It is not an escape. It is, I'm in this moment and I'm going to enjoy it. And I know that is, tomorrow, it's not going to be my addiction for sugar or something like that. So it's some difficult questions, but this is where you go inwards and you understand where
exactly.
is the balance between your body and your mental and emotional state, and what are these food cravings fulfilling.
it's beautiful, like what you're mentioning. It's like if you have awareness of what you have, knowledge, you have awareness, and you're making like this conscious choice, and then you're not bringing guilt into this play, then it can be a healthy choice, right?
Mm.
It's valid. It's like, oh, it serves you in that moment for whatever reason it is, but you know it was a choice, and you know what is implicit in this choice and what are the consequences, and you're happy with them. You're like, I can deal with this. Oh, I can, not suggesting, but just an example, I can fast tomorrow and I can have a light meal, or not. I can just like slowly bring myself into that, what is my regular meal pattern. So I can play around with this, but I know what I'm doing. So this education, this information towards food and towards actually how your body reacts to food, that is really important. And we were not taught that.
Mm.
We don't really know the importance of that until we deal with a disease and we have to look for support. And even when we do that, the information that is out there is not necessarily helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is all based on your symptomatic relief and a magic pill, which if you've developed a condition, nobody, I mean, at least the contemporary conventional medical route is not where they really understand why you are sick, or going down to the roots, or what we call in the functional world, the terrain, which has impacted the roots of your body, of your health, and why you are there. Basically, addressing why you are unhealthy and not just putting a band aid on the condition and giving you some pills to pop, or doing some surgery or something like that.
That is true. Well, I guess we covered a lot of ground for today and a lot of points for reflection. And we can always go back to those because, like, we are talking about things we're passionate about, right? So we will always circle back to those themes. But the main message, I guess, it was like trying to connect with our body wisdom, with our soul, and with nature, and honoring everything that is out there. And they're like the plants that are coming are there for a reason. Like the seasons are there for a reason. The sun is not shining all the time, like it's hiding, because we have to go within. Just paying attention to all those patterns and bringing that awareness into our lives, and honoring this wisdom that comes with it.
Yeah, that's beautiful, beautifully said, Isis. And in fact, I would like to end it with letting all our listeners know that this is the time to introspect how your year has been, and journal or go inwards, or just see what you get called to do, and write down how it's been and what would you like to shift in the new year. So this is an excellent opportunity. I know people make New Year resolutions, and that's not my cup of tea, but I really like to understand what is it that I experienced, what is it that I learned in this year, and what is it that I would like to pursue further, and what is it that I would like to shift or change in my life in the coming year. So take this opportunity to go inwards, and that is the whole purpose of connecting to your inner light, because it'll guide you when you let it.
It will. Oh, that's a beautiful share and beautiful invitation, my friend. Thanks for that. That's
You're
all.
very welcome.
I'll
And
do it. And then, yeah, like set intentions for next year. It doesn't like the intention could be just like, where should I improve myself, right? It's just like, where do I still have to work and how can I make it happen? Because
yeah,
when we ask these questions to ourselves, the answer is already in there. We just have to listen.
exactly. All the answers are within. You really need to go within
Yeah.
rather than looking for answers externally. All right. This was a
Thank
beautiful conversation. Thank you very much, Isis.
you.
And
Thank
till
you.
we connect again.
Until then.